Huh? Check 1, 2.
Hello? Hi. Are you in the Zoom? You are, aren't you? Well, Keith is me because I don't have an account apparently, so she's trying to log me under Keith's. Yeah, but you're in. Can you hear?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wait,
Here, let me hang up.
okay, so
No, that's not your
no. Yeah, can't see my.
That's pretty high up there.
So what do I need to do for the volume and the mute, the unmute? Where's the?
Yeah, that's on here.
All can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, I can't see you. Can you?
My video is blocked by the host.
Oh, that's the city of Delafield.
Yep. Well, that makes sense because we're 7 minutes early.
Well, they don't want to see us anyhow. Okay.
Are you all set?
So if I want to, yeah, the second one. So this is volume on the here. That's should only, that's the only.
Yeah, you need to move yourself. You can just do it on that one.
So,
Well, all I have to say is you guys are a much better version of Keith than Keith.
thank you. Can you see us?
Yeah, I can. Good to see you.
That's
All
how
right,
I-
yeah.
that's how I-
Hello. Okay, yeah, and if you need to mute, just hit this. Just hit it again. Okay, there you go.
Okay, let me know. Thanks, Holly.
You're welcome.
Um, okay. Well, I can't see you, so I don't know how helpful this is going to be.
Well, I hope. I mean, it's saying that the city blocked me.
Yeah, but the city doesn't want to see us. I forwarded you that email. They said that this email I sent. Oh, I'm sorry.
We are happy to comply. I don't want you staring at my bald head anyway.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Delafield Board of Review meeting for May 29th, 2025, coming to order at 4 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Could I please have a roll call?
Yep, sure. Mayor Iker,
Present.
Alderperson Grimmer,
Here.
Ken Beckman,
Present.
Craig Hines,
Here.
Thomas Wolfenberger,
Here.
Stephen Laughlin.
Here.
Did I miss someone?
Paul.
No, right. I have Mayor Iker, Alderperson Grimmer, Ken Beckman, Craig Hines, Tom Wolfenberger.
Paul Price was here last time.
Oh, we're good. So let's make sure we have a quorum.
Yep, we got a quorum here.
All right. So confirmation of Board of Review and open meetings notices in compliance with state law.
Yes, so the adjournment has been posted in accordance with statutes for indicating that our meeting was adjourned to today. The meeting notice was posted in accordance with the open meetings law requirements, and all objectors had been given written notice of their hearings, one on May 14th and one on May 16th.
Okay, thank you. So item 5, proceed to hear objections. So I'd like to open the Board of Review hearing for 1614 West Shore Drive, identified by tax key number DELC 0786007. So with that,
Can we get a roll call vote on that? A motion and a roll call vote?
motion to open the, oh, okay. Looking for motion to open the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Okay. And a roll call vote? Mayor Iker?
Yes.
Alderperson Grimmer?
Aye.
Ken Beckman? Aye. Craig Hines?
Aye.
Thomas Wolfenberger?
Aye.
Stephen Laughlin?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So the hearing for 1614 is now open. So I'll briefly, can the applicant hear us? If they were muted, they need to unmute.
Well, this is Cindy Leiden.
Okay.
Okay, I was just checking on the applicant, so I'll just go through, make sure that you could hear. If you have any problems hearing us, please, speak out, and we'll do our best to make sure to correct it. I'll just outline the hearing procedure so you know how this is going to flow. So the person filing the objection will testify and present their evidence first, and the assessor may then ask you, the property owner or objector, questions, after which then Board of Review members may ask you additional questions that they have for you. After the property owner testifies, then any other witnesses present in support of you will testify, and each one of your witnesses will be subject to questions from the assessor and the Board of Review members. Then after,
Okay.
and then after that
This meeting is being recorded.
Then after that has occurred, the assessor will present his case in support of the assessment, and then you as a property owner objector can ask the assessor questions, followed by the Board of Review asking questions as well. And after he testifies, other witnesses perhaps on his support will also testify, and their witnesses will be subject to questions from the property owner and the Board of Review members. From there, you may respond to any of the assessor's testimony by presenting any other evidence, followed by additional questions from the assessor and Board of Review members. And then he may also provide more evidence in support of the assessment to rebut that, followed by questions from you and the Board of Review members. And then after all this evidence has been submitted under oath, you as a property owner can make a brief summary of your case, and the assessor may follow with a brief summary of his case. And then after those have been presented, the testimony will be closed, and then the Board of Review will deliberate on the testimony that we heard, either immediately or following the testimony or at a later date to be announced. Does that sound okay? You understand?
I do understand. This is Cindy, and my husband Paul is also present. Just wanted to let the board know that.
Okay, with that, I'll just read a brief finding of fact on the property. The assessment year was 2025. The tax key number is DELC 0786007. Property owners Cindy Leiden and Paul Rumler. Property address is 1614 West Shore Drive, Delafield, Wisconsin, 53018. As of January 1st, 2025, the assessed value was presented as $506,000 and $506,100 for the land, with $225,900 for the improvements, with a total assessment at $732,000. The hearing date's today at May 29th, 2025, and confirming that you received confirmation of the hearing. You're here, so I'm going to say yes. And both the objector and assessor waived 40. No, that did not occur. Okay. And so
I could catch the last thing you said, sir.
Oh, I just said we did not waive any notice for a short notice for hearing. The only thing that we really acted upon was your request to have the hearing and testify by phone. And so
Okay, thank you.
that is what we were doing. Anything else? Okay.
They provided timely notice.
And timely notice to intent to file the objection was made, and there was no, and no waiver was granted. And let's see here. We've already said who's here. So what I'd like to do is have you sworn in, you and whoever else is testifying. So I don't know, Molly, you want to do that?
Yes. Yes, we will go ahead and swear in the witnesses. So if we could, one by one, start with introducing yourselves, name, address.
So that would be you, Cindy, if that works.
So my name is Cindy Leiden, Lyden, and my primary address is 5200 South Race Street at Greenwood Village, Colorado.
I'm sorry,
80121.
can you spell that? Can you pause? Can you spell your street name, please?
Sure, it's RACE.
Okay.
And my husband's also here, Paul Rumler, he's the other property owner. I don't know if you else.
So he'll need to
Diana
introduce
Hudson.
himself individually, so if you could just start with complete your name. I just want to make sure I'm getting all this. Hold on one second. So it's South Ray Street, Greenwood Village, Colorado, 80121. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I just want to, it was a little muffled for me, so I apologize. I just wanted it to be clear for the record. Okay, and then if the next witness for the hearing could please unmute or join the call and state their name and address as well.
My name is Paul Rumler. I am an owner of the property along with my wife, Cindy Leiden. Our residence is 5200 South Race Street, Greenwood Village, Colorado, 80121.
Okay, and will there be any additional witnesses today?
No,
Okay, all right, then, could you please, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Excellent. And then, Cal?
I do also.
Excellent. And again, we have Cal Magnan, Cindy Leiden, and Paul Rumler here as witnesses for the record. Assessor, can you please state the estimated level of assessment for the current year?
Our estimated level of assessment is at 100%.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what he said.
He said the estimated level of assessment for the city of Delafield is 100%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Cindy, if you wouldn't mind, please state your objection, what you think the assessed value for the property and the land is, and any evidence you might have.
I will do so, thank you. So first, I wanted to just thank the board for taking the time to hear these objections. I know it takes time. And I did submit some written materials. Can I assume or ask if the board's received those or if they've had an opportunity to review them?
Yes, we have the information that you submitted in our packet.
Thank you. So first, I just thought I would share by way of some little background, not to review every single thing I said, because I know you're all capable of reading. But I grew up, and when I was born, I grew up and lived on West Shore Drive, which is the same street where this property is currently located today. Attended Oconomowoc schools and graduated from Oconomowoc High School, went to college in Milwaukee. And so I do have really strong roots and connection to the community. And my husband and I met in school in Milwaukee. So he's actually from the Midwest too. So we're both connected to the
I'm sorry.
also know.
Cindy, you're cutting out.
Could you start when you said you bought the house?
But when we bought the house on West Shore Drive, I was born in Delafield and grew up there, right?
Yes, they did hear
Okay.
that we did hear that you were born in Delafield and did grow up here.
So when we purchased the home primarily from my mom to have a place to live, she inherited that property from her mother, but we didn't buy it with an intention to flip it and turn it into a big, huge estate that we could make a significant amount of money on. We bought it because there was a desire to remain in the community and be part of the community and to have a stable and safe living situation for my mother. So, so the objection the written objection that you received kind of laid out some of that history in a little more detail. But moving to the present, then to the current assessment, I did provide a number of photographs showing the current condition of the property. And there just hasn't been money in the family to do a lot of improvements and some of the maintenance that somebody else might do if they were living there all the time. But it is, I believe it's safe and stable situation for my mom. But there, like I said, there's a lot of deferred maintenance. And so I do think that the comparables that were used by Mr. Magnum, and I did have a chance to speak briefly to him, but it was right before the last set of hearings commenced, so we didn't have an opportunity to resolve anything amongst ourselves. But he did send me some additional comparables after he and I visited. And my feeling still about those comparables is that they're not necessarily comparable in the same geographic setting and condition of property. And that's the primary basis for the objection, is that the condition of the property is much less than the condition of some of the comparables that Mr. Megan used in the.
Cindy, you're cutting out again.
I don't know what to do, I'm not moving. A lot of the very subjective and not necessarily based on actual.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Cindy, you're still cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Maybe I'll stand closer to the speaker here. Is this better if I stand closer to the speaker?
It seems to be.
Yes, right now you seem to be clear.
Okay. So my objection to the comparables that were used by the assessor was that I didn't believe that they were comparable and that in terms of location and type of improvement, and that a lot of the adjustments that Mr. Magnum made to value were really subjective on his part, not made on an actual inspection of the particular properties, the really probably more visual outside outside of the properties, or maybe based on aerial photographs that he had access to, but not necessarily based on what the properties actually looked like inside. So so that's the primary basis for our objection. And I felt like because of some of the deferred maintenance, specifically with like the roof and the chimney, that the assessed value should be reduced to $610,000. The other objection I had with respect to some of the value regarding the land is that this part of the lake has always been very mucky and weedy, and there's no beach there. There's no pier you can just jump off into the water. You can't even walk into the water from that part of the lake because it's so mucky and silty. And I think some of the other properties, again, that Mr. Magnum used were located on better parts of the lake, or different neighborhoods that were all improved and had been renovated and remodeled or possibly scraped. So that's the basis for our objection, and the manner in which I assessed or determined I thought would be a fairer value for this property. And again, I also just asked the board to consider that our long-standing relationship with the area and our families. As I said, my mother still lives in the property. One of my sisters lives there with her. And so we are still very much connected to the area. And I would hope that the board would consider that some of us seniors would like to remain residents of the area and homeowners in the area, and continue to enjoy everything that the city of Delafield and the lake has to offer.
Okay.
So that's the summary of my remarks.
Okay, thank you. Cal, would you have any questions for the objector?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Does the Board of Review have any questions? Yes, Ken?
Ken Beckman, you gave us what you believe the total was. Do you have a breakdown of how you believe that total is divided between the land and the improvements?
Are you talking about the $610,000 total figure?
Yes.
I kind of, honestly, I thought that the property, the house itself, should be reduced by $95,000, because I thought that would be about the cost of those improvements for the roof and the chimney. And then I guess sort of arbitrarily added the rest to the land, the difference to the land.
Okay, this is Tim Eicher. It's escaping me now. Did you provide any comparables in the city of Delafield in the same general, close to your home? I know you've got some that are listed in other municipalities on your objection form, but do you have any that are on Lake Nagawicca?
I do not. No, I couldn't find any on Lake Nagawicca.
Okay, and is your assumption that, or is your $95,000 quote decrease that you're asking for, is that something that you believe is based on the assumption that the assessor is estimating your house to be in pristine condition? And that this is a discount?
He estimated it to be in pristine condition. I think that he, like I said, he and I talked, he said he graded it a C. And I just think based on what it actually looks like and what it actually needs, I had just some numbers, some figures that I put together based on the roof and the chimney primarily, and then just something to, minor or less of an adjustment based on the location on the lake, just because of the way the lake is on that particular side.
This is Tom Wolfenberger. On the estimates of the repairs, are you in process? Did you get quotes by contractors? What's their repair status?
I have estimates, but we don't have funds to do that right now. Again, a lot of our additional funds are being spent just taking care of my mother who lives in the property.
So this is Tim again. So do you have appraising experience or training, or did you have an appraiser look at this to help you come to your, the value that you're claiming is the right number?
I just worked with a realtor, a local realtor.
Okay. Is there any other questions that the board has for the objector? Okay, with that, Cal, would you please present your case?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Paul, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, I'm sorry, you got me correct. Yeah, you have another witness. Please, Paul, go ahead. I am sorry.
No worries. Cindy, I think you articulated the main points very thoughtfully. We have not entertained any bids to make the necessary repairs. We have, on and off over the years, had contractors come out and do work to repair, and they have offered a napkin type estimate of what they thought it would take to make permanent repairs to the facility. So no, we do not have any estimates to support the numbers, but those are generally in line with what various contractors have mentioned to us over the years as they've done the repairs that we've been able to afford to the property. And that would be the sum of my additional comments.
Okay. Cal, do you have any questions for Mr. Remler?
No.
Board members, do you have any questions? It appears no. So seeing that, Cal, would you please
Yeah, I'm
your
going to
support?
submit the property record card to the Board of Review. We, through the process of the reevaluation, we generate a market-based cost approach to generate the values. This particular property's got an effective year of 1928, which is the year it was built. We don't show any remodeling. We do have it graded as a C minus, which is an average minus. I have the interior rating is listed as fair. Obviously, there were no interior inspections done as part of the reevaluation, so we are not aware of interior conditions of the homes. The property does sit on, my record shows a 62-foot front foot lot. And Cindy's comments, she was referring to the comparables. The comparables are not used to set the assessed values. The comparables are generated from the computer system. It'll take any sale in the city and adjust it to match the subject property. So we don't do the same as the appraisers with the find comparables, make adjustments to comparables. The comparables are after the fact to show property owners what is sold and give them an idea what their property is worth against those sale prices. Again, I sent her comparables, I believe, 2 separate times, and again, the assessed values are not being generated from comparables. So I wouldn't have anything else to add.
Okay, Cindy, do you have any questions for the assessor, Cal?
No, but I guess I just wanted to confirm it. I think what I heard Mr. Magnum say is that there is no interior inspection of any of the comparables. Is that right?
There were no inspections done for any of the properties in the city of Delafield for the reevaluation.
Okay. The comparables are all generated by computer then?
Correct. And they're
Okay.
generated based on the values we have in our system for our cost models. So the comparable adjustments are based on the cost model for the city of Delafield.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Cal from the objector or her partner?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay, board, do we have any questions for Cal?
This is Alderman Laughlin. I have a couple of questions, Cal.
Yes, sir.
Can you just educate us in how you, when you're doing these, take into consideration which lake it's on in terms of relative? Because the comparables that the objectors have presented are not on this lake, and they're not even in the city. Would you already have done the relative comparison for lake frontage quality in terms of the land assessment?
Our cost models take into effect the different areas of the lake, and dollar per foot, front foot is different in different areas of the lake. So
Okay, so you already take into account things like, for example, the muck level and that sort of thing were already factored in, aren't they?
absolutely.
Okay. And when you look at the exterior, you obviously notice when the house, exterior condition at least, gives you some indication that there's a differential, right?
Generally, if you've got
I'm
issues,
sorry, I can't hear the questions that are being asked and the answers because I hear a lot of typing. I can't hear the back and forth.
Do you want me to repeat the questions, Molly?
Would you mind? I'm so sorry, but yes,
Yeah,
please.
please,
No,
yeah.
that's absolutely fine. I don't mind at all.
Yeah, if you could just repeat it a little bit louder.
So the first question that I asked Cal was, what does he take into consideration as a general process for determining the quality of the land value for lake frontage on the relative lakes and also the relative positions on this specific lake? As in, did he factor in already the muck level versus other parts of the lake that may not have that?
and my answer is yes, we do. We have different areas on the lake, different dollars per front foot assessed values in different portions of the lake.
Okay, and the second question I asked was whether, as a matter of process, you take into consideration what you see from the exterior about the exterior quality of the home.
Generally, when we're not doing interior inspections, we have to make an exterior view, and if we see conditions that are less than average or normal, we're taking that into account. In this property, the interior has already been rated as fair. It came back from 1995 or 96 in a reevaluation in the city at that time.
Okay. And then the third question I wanted to run by you is, with respect to the comparables that have been presented, because they're not in the city of Delafield, and they're not on this lake, there's no information before us that would give us a relative position value differential that we'd normally see in a comparative appraisal kind of presentation, because the different lakes that they're on have different relative merits and demerits that affect the valuation. I assume that these, I guess I'm not sure how to ask this question, but I don't see that information in what's presented, but is that typically relevant in your process of assessment, the relative lakes compared to each other?
Absolutely. There's, again, different values for different lakes, different values on the same lake.
Okay,
Comparables presented, we don't know what we have as far as footage or size of a house or anything.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else you'd like to have testify, Cal?
No.
Okay,
No.
so Cindy and Paul, you're able to respond to anything that you heard either questioned or answered by the assessor, and provide anything additional you think might be relevant.
Paul, did you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay,
I think, okay, I don't have anything additional. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Cal, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, just add one thing. In the process of our reevaluation, the average increase in the city was at 40%, and in this property had an increase of 31%. So it's already been somewhat downgraded and didn't have the average increase.
Gotcha. So there's a chance, again, this goes back and forth, because sometimes these get complicated. This one isn't seen that way, but if Cindy or Paul, you have anything else you'd like to add to summarize this, please feel free to do that, or you say that you're good if you're not.
Well, I think that the only thing I just want to emphasize, if I heard Mr. Magnum correctly, is that the modeling or the program that he uses is really only considering the exterior views of the property and not necessarily the interior. And I did provide you with a number of photographs of the interior of our home, our house, showing just, the deferred maintenance that exists there, and that, really does need a fair amount of work to kind of make it, I think, into a more average sort of home. And a lot of the properties, again, that were used by him as comparables are really they're all flipped or in the process of being flipped. So I just would ask the board to consider that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Cal, do you have anything else to add?
I would add, again, the property has been rated as an average minus, and the interior rating is already listed as a fair quality interior rating. So those things have been taken into consideration.
Okay,
Can I ask Cal a question related to that?
sure.
This is Alderman Laughlin. Cal, can you please give us what you consider the definition of fair as it relates to the interior so that we can compare that to what we see in the pictures, et cetera?
Well, again, I'm working off of the interior condition was rated as fair. And again, I'm not sure when the last time interior inspections were done in the city of Delafield. I know in 1991, 92 they were, but I'm not sure what's happened since 1997 through today.
So when you say, I guess what I'm trying to say is when you say fair, what would be higher ratings that are above fair?
You've got average, good, very good, excellent.
So we're pretty far down the scale with a fair.
We've got fair, poor, and unlivable, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you one last, anything to follow up with Cal on that, Cindy?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. And with that, we'll be closing the testimony. So now that there's no more opportunity for Cal or the objector to speak, and it's up to us to deliberate based on what we've heard. So we'll do that right now. So going through what we have, so we've got a couple things we can just check off here. I mean, there was, yeah, we're on section C, so for determinations. So based on the assessment, the assessment level was 100%. And we didn't hear any evidence that there was no sale, there was not a recent sale of the property that was presented, that there absolutely was not, correct? And then the sale was, so there's no sale there. And recent sales of comparable properties, did we hear any, I did not see any presentation of recent sale of comparable properties to evaluate their relative value other than the statement that there was, the analysis that was done citywide was applied to this property. Is that, everyone in agreement with that?
I would agree.
And recent sales by the property owner, or presented by the property owner in the market area, again, did not show the, anything in the city, and didn't show any kind of analysis of how there was an appraiser's approach to compare the properties and show what was worth more and worth less. Neither did the assessor show us recent sales of comparable properties and do that same analysis. So we're looking really for a motion to either how's that? So what? Yeah, so absent any of the other evidence above, we find that the assessment should be based on other factors? Does that seem like the direction we're going?
It would be, does the board?
Yeah, do we find that the assessment should be based on other factors than what's been presented?
So was there compelling evidence, other evidence? The question would be, is there other evidence that it was compelling, absent these, that would indicate that the assessment should be based on those factors and adjusted accordingly?
This is Ken Beckman. I don't see any such factors. I think Cal already said that this was interior rated as fair, and the only thing lower than that would be poor, because obviously there's people living in it, so it wouldn't be unlivable. So it's already been taken into account, the condition of the interior.
This is Alderman Grimmer. I would concur with Commissioner Beckman.
I mean, one of the things I know that one of our goals is to, and charters is to be, equitable in hearing how the rating systems were taken into account and how that resulted. I think Cal said that it was, relatively speaking to properties nearby, the assessment was, went up about 25% less than neighboring properties. Whereas many went up in the neighborhood 40%, this one went up 30%, and this is already based on a relative scale rating of the condition taken into account, which was average and fair. So, that's credible to me.
This is Alderman Laughlin. I concur. I mean, based on the responses to the questions that I gave to Cal, as well as the information before us, I'm confident that the process that Cal and his staff used in coming up with the assessment they had of $732,000 did follow the appropriate procedure in taking into account the muck level of the water quality, which was standard procedure for them already on the lake, to make those adjustments, and adjustment for the exterior quality being taken into consideration, that it was not in a stellar condition. He took into consideration that the interior was near the bottom of his many steps scale of quality of interior. As was stated before, a fair is only one step above, or two steps above, one or two steps above unlivable. It goes from fair to poor to unlivable, and there were several above that. So clearly, without seeing the interior, he already factored in quite a big markdown in terms of assessed value, and that the overall result comes in at a significantly lower assessment percentage, I think is very reflective of the declined value of this in comparison to other properties within the city of Delafield.
Any more comments or discussion? Someone interested in making a motion?
So if we could go to section D.
Section
If there's no more discussion, we can go to section D and work through. If there's no more discussion, then we would go to section D of this determination form and then work through that with whomever would like to start.
Alderman Grimmer moves exercising its judgment and discretion pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 70.47, subsection 9A. The Board of Review by majority and roll call vote hereby determines that the assessor's valuation is correct.
Ken Beckman, second.
Are there any additional items in that list there that would apply to this particular property?
I would add that the assessor presented evidence of the fair market value of the subject property using assessment methods which conform to the statutory requirements and which are outlined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual. And that the assessor presented evidence of the proper classification of the subject property using methods which conform to the statutory requirements and which are outlined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual. And that the assessor's valuation is reasonable in light of all the relevant evidence. and that the property owner did not present sufficient evidence to rebut the presumption of correctness granted by law to the assessor. And sustains the same valuation as set by the assessor.
Yep. Is there a second to that long motion? He was finishing his motion.
Ken Beckman, I second the elongated version of his motion.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
And then we're gonna roll
Vote,
call.
Paul, please.
All right. Mayor Iker,
Aye.
Alderperson Grimmer,
Aye.
Ken Beckman,
Aye.
Greg Hines,
Aye.
Tom Wolfenberger,
Aye.
Stephen Laughlin.
Aye.
Okay, so Cindy, as you likely heard, we passed a motion in favor of sustaining the assessor's valuation. There are other recourses that you can look up to follow up on this if you care to. You can talk to the clerk, and you'll get your paperwork from her as well.
Does the paperwork have the appeal rights and references on it?
Yes, it does.
Well, I appreciate the board considering it. I'm really sorry that there's not more consideration given to having kind of a more diverse demographic around the lake. You're just going to end up with a bunch of rich
Okay,
people.
Understood.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, let's see here. 5B.
Let's close that hearing.
Oh, so thought that did. So that the hearing for 1614 West Shore Drive, DLC 0786007 is now closed. So looking for a motion to open the border review hearing for 20 Crossroads Court identified by tax key number DELC 0803006.
So moved.
Roll call.
We need a second.
Oh,
Is there a second to hear this?
Second.
oh, well, Tom.
Okay.
Okay. And then I just need my list of people here, sorry. Mayor Iker,
Aye.
Matt Grimmer,
Aye.
Ken Beckman,
Aye.
Craig Hines,
Aye.
Tom Wolfenberger,
Aye.
Stephen Laughlin.
Aye.
Okay, so the hearing for 20 Crossroads Court is now open. And I'll just introduce it and then we'll swear people in. The assessment year is 2025. Tax key number is DELC 0803006. Property owner is DK Hinkle Investments, LLC. Address is 20 Crossroads Court, Delafield, Wisconsin, 53018. It's based on the January 1st, 2025 assessed value with an assessment of $713,900 for the land and $790,400 for the improvements, for a total of $1,504,300. Hearing date is today, May 29th, 2025 at 4:44. The objector received information of the hearing because she's here, and neither waived the 48-hour notice. There was a timely notice of intent to file objection, and we're present here to talk about it. So Molly, please swear people in.
Okay, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I can. Darlene Osgood, 19355 Gebhardt Road, Brookfield, Wisconsin, 53045.
Can you please repeat the street and spell that for me?
Yes, I can. Gebhardt, Gebhardt Road.
And that was Brookfield?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we also have,
Assessor Cal Magnan, W360S10094, Markham Road, Eagle, Wisconsin.
all right, could you both raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Excellent. Assessor, please state, actually, pause. And again, the witnesses
Did you
sworn.
say I do?
I did.
Okay, oh, I
Thank you.
missed it, thank you.
The witnesses sworn for the record again, Cal Magnan and Darlene Osgood. Assessor Magnan, can you please state the estimated level of assessment for the current year?
Our estimated level of assessment is 100%.
Okay, thank you. So you're gonna hear the same thing I heard a minute ago for the other hearing, but I just need to make sure it's clear that you get to file, that you're filing the objection, so the burden of proof is on you. So you get to present evidence first, and then the assessor may then ask you questions, after which the board can ask you questions about what you presented. And then after you testify, if you have anybody else, and I don't think you do, the same process would apply to them. So after you've testified, the assessor will present his case, where similarly, you'll be able to ask him questions, as will the board of review, based on what he presents. And then any other witnesses he has will do this, follow the same process. And then you can respond to any evidence, new evidence or new thoughts you had based on how he testified. And again, then he gets to ask you questions, and so does the board of review. And likewise, he gets to respond to anything you might have brought up again, and then you're both asked to give us a final summary. You understand all that?
I do.
Okay, so with that, if you wouldn't mind, just please begin just stating what you think the property is assessed at for land and property value, improvement value, and then just present why you think that's so.
Absolutely. May I hand a copy of this to you?
Of course,
I summarized this because it will be easier to understand what I'm going to present.
certainly. Thank you.
So first, I just want to start by saying I'm a veterinarian, and I built my practice here in 1996. And it's been a great place to be. I looked for 5 years for land, so it's been a great experience. Why I'm here today is because the assessed value I'm looking for is, like anyone else, I guess I would say, to be fair. And so I kind of have a little bit to back me up. Cal and I have a little bit of a history going on here since May, basically 15th. And so what that is I'm going to just start. If you look at this sheet, and excuse my voice because I don't know why I'm shaking, but there's a lot of you here. So anyways, January 24, for banking purposes, I had an actual appraisal done, and the building was valued at $1,015,000. And then I got the reassessment, and it was valued at $1,104,300. So that was a 39% increase for us. And then I met with Cal on the 15th of April, and I told him about the appraisal done January 24, and that I did not have a full copy of the appraisal, but I could get a letter from my attorney, and he said that would be fine to have a letter stating that the value was $1,015,000 since that attorney was involved with the appraisal. So that was what the plan was, but then I didn't hear anything from him. And that's partially because there was a little bit of a time difference in that I had to wait for my attorney to get the letter. But on top of that, on April 23rd, I received Cal's reassessment, which didn't include the consideration of that letter in that conversation. So I had contacted him about that. So he had changed it based on our meeting, April 15th, from $1,504,300 to $1,420,600. And then my attorney, Jason Heinen, got a letter to him via email on April 25th of 2025. And then with that, that was supposed to be how we were going to talk. And so I started to call Cal. I have a lot of phone records, but I didn't think it was important to do that here today, so I didn't print it all. But anyways, on May 1st, I hadn't received any response from him, and so I talked to his assistant, Cody. Cody said that Cal would get back to me On May 8th, and again, there's a lot of calls in between here. Mostly I was speaking to Cody, and he said there were notes that were written, so that was part of what I was confused about, in terms of Cal had some notes written about having received this letter. Cody even went into Cal's email and he said, yeah, you know, the letter is here. So on May 8th, I talked to Cal. I had said to him, you had said that if I provided this letter from my lawyer, that would be all that you needed if I couldn't get the full appraisal. And he said that he had misspoke, and he apologized to me for misspeaking. He said, I really need the entire appraisal. So my appraiser had an office fire, so he didn't have that information available. So when Cal said on that May 8th conversation, these very words, I've had a great relationship speaking to him in all honesty, but anyway, he said, don't worry about it, we'll figure something out. Well, then I contacted the original appraiser because I thought, you know what, maybe, and this is my brother who owns some properties, but he said, maybe the value really is up. And I said, all right, you know what, I'll bite the bullet. So I paid $2,000 for an appraisal. The appraisal was done by Commercial Property Consultants, the same exact company that did it January 24. And with that, that was done on May 13th. I paid $2,000 to have that appraisal done. He did go through my building, inside, outside, took pictures again. And then I've got a copy of that appraisal right here. It's 46 pages, so it's a lot, so that's why I didn't give you guys a copy of it. But if you want it, you can pass it around. With that being said, so that was May 13th. May 19th is when he gave me this valuation. And I sent it as soon as I got it to Cal to provide ample time that he and I could speak. Now I have a new appraisal. The appraisal comes in at 1.3 million. So indeed, it was higher than it was January of 2024. With that, that's where I tried to connect with Cal. And being as busy as he is and as heavy of a load, I was trying to be understanding about it. Again, I have phone records of calling him, but since I hadn't heard anything on Memorial Day, I sent him another copy of the appraisal thinking, because he had suggested to me he was going to call me the week prior on Wednesday. Well, I thought it's a holiday week. I'm going to just let it slide and I can connect with him next week. So thinking, well, maybe he didn't get the appraisal. Then on May 26th, I sent it again. May 27th, Tuesday, I called. I got his voicemail, left a message about it. And then on May 28th, I actually called twice in the morning. I got lucky to get him at about 10 in the morning. But then at that point, he had informed me that he could not make any changes, that he was very busy. And so, and none of this is to, you know, as I said to Cal, you know, it's really just me saying, I've got an appraisal in front of me telling what this is worth. And we talked about doing something and nothing happened with that. So I'm here to really make the appeal for a fair assessment because I've got an assessor who just did this on May 13th and his value his valuation is 1.3 million. I hope it's okay for me to say this, Cal, but Cal did make
Whatever you're saying,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. No, because in our conversation, he did say that it should be $100,000 lower. So that is where that $120,000 comes from to come down to the 1.3 million. That's pretty much it. Is there anything else I'm supposed to iron out?
We'll figure, we get to go back and forth, so we'll probably
Okay.
figure it out.
Okay.
Cal, do you have any questions for the objector?
No. No.
Okay, board of review, I'll start with one. Molly, am I seeing the right form in here?
Yes.
So these numbers aren't lining up. So in the form here that's in our packet, we've got an assessment.
There was a change made at open book, so
So what I was reading off of here was from the original card?
the original assessed,
Okay, so the assessed value that is being objected to here is.
should be 1,420,600.
Okay, and your objection form is stating a value of 1,116,500.
Yes, because I was going off of our original conversation and the original appraisal that I had from January of '24, not realizing that I was going to have another one done, so it was more accurate. So I wrote that before I had the new appraisal, because as you see, the appraisal was done very recently, May 13th.
Okay, is that appraisal in our packet?
It was not provided to me.
It's right here.
Okay,
I don't know if that helps, but.
okay, so your contention right now is that your assessed value is, you're petitioning it for it to be $1.3 million even?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Who's the? Alderman Grimmer. Who did the appraisal? Commercial Property Consultants?
Yep, Steve Zalowski from Commercial Property
And
Consulting.
that wasn't, and we don't have access to that? That wasn't included in your,
Well, I've got a
materials.
PDF that went to Cal, but this is the actual paper copy of it. Should I give it, would you like to see it?
sure.
Pardon me? Or the appraiser? I think I
Going to
can-
myself.
He's a licensed appraiser.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Did you consider having him here to
Did I
support
cons-
his?
No, not at all. I thought that the report, I mean, this would be, you know, because, yeah, I mean, it's.
Right,
Yeah, it's dated.
it's, the process is really set up to be able to validate and interrogate and have back and forth to establish the credibility for witnesses and submitted evidence, just so that you're aware of that. So that,
Is it possible to speak?
you need to speak into the microphone, please.
I'm so sorry. Is it possible to have Cal verify the credibility because he received a PDF
Well,
from this gentleman?
Cal will be speaking in a minute, so.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
now
was
we're
just-
asking you
Yeah.
questions. And the purpose of the appraisal was to establish, to do what?
To make sure that, well, there's two things, I mean, but the primary one was to make sure that I was being fair. It's the truth.
That you were being treated fairly?
No, that I was being fair about my thought on, wow, why did we go up 39%? And having a conversation with a family member who owns numerous properties, he said, you know what, maybe you should just pay for the appraisal. So I did that because I wanted to see if I was asking for too much, if the market had changed that much. You know, and the appraiser actually said to me, one of the reasons why properties are valued higher now is because if you were to rebuild your building, you're not gonna be able to rebuild that building for $1.1 million.
Does anyone else have questions for the objector? Okay. Cal, please present.
I'm going to again submit the property record card. As evidence, we generate a market-based cost approach to set the valuations. I did meet with Darlene at Open Book. She had mentioned the appraisal. This appraisal we have now is a new appraisal. Was it the date of the appraisal as of May 15th, you said, or?
It was May 13th.
Right, May 13th. By state statute, I'm not supposed to look at anything after January 1st of '25 to set an assessment based as of January 1st of '25. Again, I made an adjustment in Open Book that I felt was fair and in line. Her original assessment increase was at 36%, and after the adjustment, it was at 28%, and the average for the city was again at 40%. Once she made the process of filing that objection form, it pretty much ties my hands as far as allowing me to make any sort of change or anything, so.
Do you have any questions for Cal, based on what he just said?
Not questions, but just a conversation we had about a different way I could have gone on this.
Okay, you can present again in a second, okay.
I'm just not sure I want to do that for him.
Okay,
That's the truth, so.
does anyone here have questions for Cal?
Cal, you said this, just to reiterate, you said this property was assessed at 28% versus citywide 40%?
Yeah, the original assessment was at 30%, 36% increase. I made an adjustment at Open Book of $83,700. So her increase is now at 28%, 28.5.
And why did you make that adjustment?
Just based on the information she had brought in and referring to the earlier appraisal.
The earlier appraisal from the bank?
I believe it was a bank appraisal, yeah.
Thank you.
It was from the same company. Oh, can I not
I'm
talk?
sorry, yeah, but this is, yeah, it's
I
not a
apologize.
dialogue exchange, so
Sorry.
it's just back and forth.
Sorry.
I apologize for how this works, but
It's okay.
any other questions for?
I have a
Cal?
question, Cal. I just want to confirm I heard correctly. So it was going to be the question I was going to ask you, and I think you answered it when you spoke previously about the dates and the difference in the timing of when the value was being done by appraisal. So just confirm with me, the state law says you can't consider anything past January 1st,
For me as the assessor, I cannot look at a sale after January 1st of '25 to set the assessment for January 1st, '25.
Okay.
You know, unless a property owner brings it to my attention, then I can recognize it.
Okay.
It doesn't apply to appraisals.
So this one was done almost not quite a half a year later, right?
Well, the current appraisal was done just a couple of weeks ago because the original appraisal was lost in a fire.
Okay.
Any other questions for Cal?
Cal, so just a question for you. I don't normally question, but I just want to check to make sure I have this time frame correct. So that second appraisal was received after the first meeting of the Board of Review?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add, just based on how this conversation's gone?
I guess I would add, there's been no improvements to my building at all in 6 years. And I think that's a factor to be considered. And it is a vet hospital. This isn't, I know at one time there was an assessor that compared us to Pro Healthcare, which clearly a vet hospital is built for animals to go to the bathroom on the floor, et cetera, and all that kind of thing. And when we point out that this appraisal was done after our initial meeting, Cal stated to me that if he got the letter from the attorney saying that it was appraised in January of 2024 at $1,015,000, that he could see bringing it down to 1.2 or 1.3 million. Those were his words to me, which was why I thought, okay, it makes sense to do the appraisal. And we had a dialogue going back and forth quite a bit, but he did state those very words to me about the 1,015,000. Oh, well, if there's an appraisal, then yeah, I could see that we would bring it down to that. So that was in part why I did the appraisal after that meeting, but that the reevaluation didn't reflect our conversation. And in part, it might have been the snafu with my lawyer getting the letter to him April 25th via email, and Cal's letter was dated, the reevaluation was dated April 23rd. So I met with Cal the 15th. His reevaluation letter was dated April 23rd, and then it was April 25th that my attorney sent Cal a letter. So there was a little bit of a time thing there, but in our conversation, when he heard about the valuation from, or the appraisal from January of 2024, he had vocally said, literally face-to-face said, well, then 1.2 to 1.3 million. So that in part comes from that. And then I took the additional step. And Cal, may I ask Cal a question? Or is this not the right time for that?
You can in a minute.
Okay, sure, okay, yeah. So anyways, that's, I know a walkthrough hasn't been done on the building, but I also haven't done any improvements in 6 years, nothing. So that is partly why I feel that I'm trying to represent what I feel that the building is, and the land is really worth.
Okay, Cal, do you have any questions for Darlene?
I do not, no.
Does the board have any questions for Darlene?
I have one more question for Cal.
Well, for Darlene.
Oh, okay.
She just added, so we go back to Cal in a second.
Okay.
Hi, Darlene.
Hi.
How old is the building?
It was built in 1996, 29 years.
Okay. And you've been in there since?
29 years. I built it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Cal, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Okay, do you have any questions for Cal? You said you might.
I know, I did 1 second ago. And it was, I know what it was, Cal, can you clarify for me, because you had stated after January 1st of 2025 that an assessment can't be based on anything. Is an assessment can't be based on appraisal after January 2025?
No, the assessor cannot review sales of properties after the date of assessment to set the assessment for that year.
Okay,
What's happened over time is the assessors will wait till June or July to do a reval, and the first 6 months of sales are all assessed at their sale price, and the Department of Revenue recognizes the second half of the years aren't even close to sale prices. It's called spot assessing. It's an illegal practice, so.
okay. But in regards to the appraisal, that, given our conversation, that was okay for you to look at that? Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay.
And you do, and so, and you have an appraisal there, you have an appraisal there?
Yep.
All right, you brought it, so, I mean, if you want us to
Absolutely.
look at it, we can look at it. But again, your appraiser's not here.
And I apologize, I didn't realize that that would be important.
Is it appropriate now to ask Cal a question?
Sure.
Okay. So I just want to understand too.
Yeah.
So your thought when you lowered it to the 1.4, let me try that again. 1,420,000, when you went down to that mark, was it because, I'm just trying to get your thinking, was it because the bank appraisal was a year old at that time, and that's what?
That was
became the
part of it,
difference?
absolutely.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I'm understanding the timeline and the numbers. Thank you.
I'd like to follow up. What was the rest of the part of that? That was my exact question almost. I just wanted to know what was the thinking that you
Yeah, it was,
justified that with?
I adjusted it based on the appraisal, the information from the appraisal. I added some depreciation to the building to bring the value down. My final comment is going to be that the $1.3 million appraisal supports the $1.4 million assessed value.
Okay. Do you have anything in summary, Darlene?
Yes, I do actually. And it really is directed mostly at you, Cal, because in our conversation, that what you just stated is not what you stated to me. So is that different now? You stated to me that given the appraisal.
The appraisal supports the assessed value, and the assessed value supports the appraisal. They're not that far apart. That was my comment.
I think then that, I want to go through that again, honestly, because what you said, and I wrote this down, is you said it should be, my assessed value should be reduced because of that appraised value by $100,000 is what you told me, directly.
That's the option of the Board of Review. I can't make that determination.
Yeah, I understand, but you did say that. True?
I said the Board of Review would be the one that would need to make that determination at this point in time, yes.
Yeah, you did, okay, I just want to be sure. And there's, you know, one additional thing, it's really a moral dilemma for me to hold this in, but it was a conversation we had personally. And I use the words, I said this to Cal, I don't want to throw you under the bus, because there was something that he had said to me, and I'm going to leave it be at that, because my character says I don't want to say it, so I'll leave it at that. But it had to do with this whole situation. So I guess I don't really have too much else to say.
Okay. All right. Cal, are you good?
I have nothing further to add.
Okay. With that, I'll close the testimony for this case, and we will go into, I'm going to skip a step, I bet. Section C for deliberations. So again, we have to note that in our packet, we've got the, in the handouts that we have, it says 1.504300 for the value, and the actual appraisal that's on the record after the adjustment is in our packet at, why am I missing it? Just give me a second. $1,420,600. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
All right. And then in our packet too, just to review, it was initially presented to us that the claimed value was on the form was $1,116,500. And she has amended that to an opinion of a request for $1.3 million. Okay. So, again, the assessor stated that the assessment level's at 100%. That there was not a recent sale presented, that's on the petition form. And no sales of comparable properties were presented by either.
And excuse me one second, it's too late to let you know I had those, right?
It's all closed.
Yeah, I thought so, okay.
And if they were there in an appraisal, that we don't have the appraiser here to question. So, I believe the assessment should be based on other factors and what was the most credible evidence presented. And again, since it's not based on sale of properties or the sale of the subject property, what factors should the decision be based on?
Tim, for clarification, do we need to have a motion to have a discussion?
No, we can deliberate and develop a motion based on how our discussion leads.
Wasn't sure, I couldn't remember the process, thank you.
Was the extent of the testimony given, the objection was, the only evidence provided was an appraisal that was done a week ago, correct? I don't recall any other, there are no sales of comps.
It's a lengthy report.
Yeah.
It's hard to study that. It would have been
And we don't have the appraiser to testify.
So again, our basis is that there's a burden of proof to prove the assessor's assessment is incorrect. So we have some, that is a matter of record, what that was sworn in as a month ago.
This is Tom. I'm not able to get through this whole document. Obviously, it's lengthy.
Yeah.
The first thing I caught, however, was using the general Milwaukee geographic area as a basis for comparables, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. And we don't have the assessor to talk through some of the logic of it. But certainly, one would think there's variations of where your geography is, creates different values. So I'm not sure how to interpret that.
I would agree with you, Tom. So that's where I'm stuck. Is the assessor's valuation reasonable? He said, was that, what, we can't ask him that, can we?
We shouldn't.
We should not. He said it was at 30,
28% increase
And then-
versus 40% citywide.
which, is that reasonable?
The difference between, if I understand correctly, just to confirm, Mayor Iker, the assessed value that we've landed on was adjusted at $1,426,600, and the request that the objector is making is $1,300,000, correct?
That's how it was presented, yes.
Okay, so the difference isn't all that huge, but it's given the comment just made about the comparables being the whole Milwaukee region as opposed to properties in the locale, makes it harder to consider the appraiser's report, especially without them here to ask questions. It would seem like it wouldn't be as comparable as we had hoped for to make it at a foundation we could stand on. Additionally, because the assessor, Cal, has taken into consideration that he recognizes some of the things that were pointed out, that it's a vet practice, it's not been, none of repairs have been made, but his assessed value reflects a 28% as opposed to 40% citywide. So I know he's clearly factored in some relative value to downgrade the property in that respect. I don't personally, I wish I could say otherwise, perhaps out of sympathy, but I don't really find credible evidence that we can stand on statutorily that supports accepting the request for the change. I haven't found anything that I can stand on under the statutes.
Could I see that, since we're using that appraisal in our deliberations, when Ken is done with it, could I see it one more time, please? Thank you. I'll make a motion to exercising its judgment and discretion pursuant to Wisconsin statute 70.47, section 9, subsection A. The Board of Review by majority and roll call vote hereby determines that the assessor's valuation is correct, that the assessor presented evidence of the fair market value of the subject property using assessment methods which conform to the statutory requirements and which are outlined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual, that the assessor presented evidence of the proper classification of the subject property using assessment methods which conform to the statutory requirements and which are outlined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual, that the property owner did not present sufficient evidence to rebut the presumption of correctness granted by the law to the assessor, that the assessor's valuation is reasonable in light of all the relevant evidence and sustains the same valuation as set by the assessor.
Is there a second?
Craig Heinze seconds.
Get that?
Roll call vote. Mayor Iker?
Aye.
Alderperson Grimmer?
Aye.
Ken Beckman?
Abstain.
Craig Heinze?
Aye.
Tom Wolfenberger?
Aye.
Stephen Laughlin? Alderperson Laughlin?
Aye.
Okay, so the assessor's valuation has been upheld at the, what is the number, Molly?
So just clarifying, we're upholding the open book
Adjustment.
adjustment of $1,420,600.
Correct.
Correct.
And just to clarify further, that is a land assessed value of $713,900 with an improvement value of $706,700.
Correct. Okay, so that is the ruling of this body. Given that, this hearing is closed.
5:23.
Tim,
3.
also, we'll make her aware of the appeal procedure she wants to.
That's on the form. So you get the closing paperwork with the appeal process on the form. And there's also, it directs you to, I'm sure it's DOR's website that shows the entire process. You have access to the, our manual, Cal's manual, and the objector's manual as a property owner. And it's a valuable education to have that coming into something like this for the future, because this is something that you can do every year if you'd like to, but
Not my style.
I know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we get to make a comment at the end or not?
No, it's
Not
not,
really.
there's nothing, there's
Okay.
no more public on the agenda. We'll be milling out of here shortly. So did she get the Board of Review determination form? Or are you going to provide that?
Yes, I just gave her
Okay.
the Board of Review Notice of Determination form for this property, but if you could, somebody can make a motion to direct me to provide the notice to the 1614 West Shore Drive property via certified mail, that would be appreciated.
So moved.
Excellent.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so
Who had the second
Please do
time?
that.
You need a roll call, Molly?
Okay, I thought it was-
I don't think
Not
so.
on this one.
Okay.
So discussion of possible action on scheduling additional Board of Review dates if necessary for additional hearings. No need to do that, correct?
We do not have any.
All right, at
Hearings.
this point then, we are adjourned at 5:25 on May 29th.
Just to confirm, that is the 2025 Board of Review is adjourned for the year.
For the year, yes.